The flu had me really down in the dumps for a couple days until I looked at this West Virginia football schedule. Now I'm back up again, baby. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. Welcome back into Locked On West Virginia, where we're talking about their football tonight and a lot of other things too. Why is this charging? Oh, 1 second. I guess I didn't have the computer plugged in. Give me 1 second. All right. So we'll be talking about multiple things, obviously, including West Virginia football. So obviously, I think the schedule was something that a lot of us were looking forward to coming out. But you just expect it to be bad, right? So we'll get into it, though. This one's going to be brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, guys, $5 is going to make you come holla. But with FanDuel, if you want to create an account and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. So, I think for me on this, I started to look at all the pros and all the good things about it without looking at any of the negative things as a fan. I think that's just what I do. But there are a lot of really good things about it. I mean, it's easy to be a homer and look at this schedule in all the right ways that benefit you and not look at the bad ways to where it doesn't. But on this one, I really do think that there's more good than bad. Obviously, the product on the field is going to have to be adequate to get it done. That's the thing we don't know. And that's why I feel like the more and further we get into this, and I know people are going to roast me for it, but I just keep going back to the feeling that Scotty Fox would be the better choice for this coming year. I just can't get past the feeling that we need Scotty Fox. I think Michael Hawkins Jr.'s running ability is totally dynamic. And I've said the whole time that we need a dynamic runner in this offense. So it's like I'm contradicting myself a little bit by saying that. But it's not like Scotty Fox can't run the ball. It's just that last year's offensive line was so bad that he never really had a chance to get into the hole and do it very much. But I would be okay with either one. It's just, man, I just feel like Scotty can make a 1 year 1 to year 2 jump. And Hawkins has he has a massive ceiling. I get that too. Anyways, I'm off track. Okay, so I'll give you guys my thoughts on the schedule first. And, this is unfiltered from me, right? So these are my takes. Take it how you want. But I think the first 8 games obviously matter a lot. And I think this team, due to holes fixed, hopefully, especially on the offensive line, the influx of talent on the defensive line that nobody talks about, from the JUCO ranks with guys like Thomas, the two guys from Hutchinson that were both in the national championship game on a defensive line that allowed 2 yards per carry, and it's insane. And they averaged less than 10 points a game. Where they were two of the best defenders on that JUCO line, and 2 of the best in the entire nation at JUCO. I get it; it's got to transfer, but I think especially Jalen Thomas. Then you add in Hostrop, right? We just brought him in from Oregon. We need him to be what he can be, but what will he be? I don't know. But if he can be anything like people think, then there's another major addition. And then the guy we just got in from Coastal is obviously a major addition. And I'm just building this in here. I think this team on defense could be much better than you think, and there's still going to be a couple more additions coming. So don't ask me who they are. I just woke back up, man, from a coma. So, you know, your first four at home, then you play Virginia in Charlotte, which is West Virginia South, right? Remember when UNC in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, it was 80-20 in attendance, West Virginia, maybe, might have been 90-10. I'm not exaggerating, and you guys know that. Maybe Virginia will travel it closer to 60-40 because they're coming off a big year and all that. But let's go through the first couple games first. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit. So looks like I may have exited out of. Hold on one second here. I accidentally exited out of the schedule that I had to read. So I know where it starts and all that, but just wanted to make sure I got it right in front of me. All right. So obviously it's Coastal Carolina you start out with, which is that's where President Benson came from. And so I think we were able to fill a spot on the schedule due to that. Their situation is not much better than a lot of the teams on their schedule. There's just a lot of newness on the schedule, right? So, I look at it as a good thing, though. I mean, for West Virginia anyway, because Ryan Beard just got hired there, I believe. No, it's not. That's not his name, is it? What's his name? Let me find it really quick. Yeah, it is. It's Ryan Beard. Okay. Just had to make sure. So Ryan Beard just got hired, and I mean, there's no way they can be in a better spot than we're in, right? I mean, it's a group of 5 team and one that's been good recently, but I would imagine West Virginia should win that game. But it's not as easy an opener as last year's was, I don't think either. Actually, game 2 is probably the easier of the two. You got UT Martin. And, that's another game. Let me make sure. Jason Simpson. Yeah, he's their coach. That's right. Jason Simpson, and he's been there for a minute, I'm pretty sure. But let's see. Yeah, it's his 20th season. Yeah, he's been there for a minute for sure. So, yeah, I mean, you go from an opener to 20 wins, right? For an opener with first-year coach to a guy that's been there for 20 years. It's pretty crazy. But you go from that to Virginia on the neutral site, which was where I was at. We kind of jumped ahead of the first two. I didn't mean to do that. But, with Virginia, that's a fun game. And I think it's actually probably going to end up getting looked over on the national scene as far as exposure goes. Because it's probably not going to be the sexiest game that weekend, even if both teams are 2-0 or 3-0, whoever. I don't know if they play 2 or 3 games, but it's going to be one of those games that's going to mean a lot to each team, resume wise and things like that. Later down the line, potentially. Obviously, things would have to go right for West Virginia to be in that spot. I went ahead and did a little breakdown of Virginia ahead of the show. It's one of the things that took me so long because I'm like, well, how good are they going to be, though? Or are they going to be the team last year that went to the ACC championship game? And that was a wonky, weird situation where I think they had 2 8-win teams playing in the title game. Somehow Miami didn't do it. Just crazy. So, they were the fall champion of the ACC. I don't even remember if they beat Duke or not. But yeah, so are they going to coast into 2026? And so I looked in their portal class. They've signed 30 guys. I mean, that necessarily count you out, but they have signed 30 guys. They got a top 30 class, fifth in the ACC, and there's a lot of people that really like their class. They really upgraded at wide receiver, secondary, interior defensive line, and it looks like on the offensive line at center. They're returning most of their O-line. So, we'll see. The trenches is where they really doubled down, though. It looks like for me, they've signed close to 7 guys for the D-line. Really portal heavy class, though. Very tiny high school class. More the win now scenario you see anymore. This is Tony Elliott, and he's been there for a little bit. It's a physical discipline UVA team that you should expect to be tough, but I'll be danged if I ever feel like West Virginia going into a game with Virginia and is going to be losing, like they had a good year last year. Let's see if they can put another one together. Maybe they will, and maybe there'll be a loss on the schedule. But I'm not necessarily going that way. They'll probably have Anthony Calandria as their quarterback. I'm assuming that the kid that they had last year that's been everywhere is not going to get a 7th season or whatever it would be, although he tried. He's an experienced guy. He can extend plays. But he's not exactly what they've had. They've got Paris Jones at running back returning. They got a ton of people coming back. Could be wrong on a couple of these, but either way, they went out and got a bunch of talent in the portal. We'll see what they do. All right. But I do feel like West Virginia can win that game. I don't go into that feeling like it's unwinnable, is my point. We'll go to break off of that really quick. We'll come right back, and I'll give you my overall thoughts as far as where I think West Virginia is going to land, because it does get tricky. You go 8 games without getting a bye. That can affect some things. So we'll talk about it next. And we're talking about TurboTax here. And look, when it comes to getting your taxes done, there aren't too many places you're going to want to do it other than TurboTax. And tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. But with TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert. You can do it in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2 to self-employed forms. And look, they can get to work for you and give you most every deduction, right? You can also upload your documents and go about your day, or you can get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind to people knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your TurboTaxes done, your taxes done from a local TurboTax expert. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. For just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. To take taxes off your plate and go back to your life, visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. All right, we back. Yeah, man, I was sick as a dog, guys. I mean, I did that Colorado preview the other day, and everybody told me how bad I looked. And I was like, what? I look bad? And I guess it was the precursor to that hitting me. I had no idea. And I mean, I'm talking about it absolutely waxed me. I was trying to do another video. I was sitting here asleep like this, slumped. at my computer for hours trying to get that video up, just waking up and working on it, waking up and working on it. And then I just started shivering, and I was like, man, I'm not going to be able to do this. I was trying to do it for Locked On Oklahoma State, and I just could not do it. And then before I knew it, man, I had a fever. I was shivering. It was rough. And that lasted about 48 hours, whatever it was, 36. And then it was gone. I mean, I still feel rough. Don't get me wrong. Like, it took some effort for me to come in here and do this, but I'm capable. And that's what I'm worried. You know, if I wasn't capable, I wouldn't do it. But yeah, so let's get back to the breakdown though. You can still hear my voice though. I hadn't spoken in a couple days. I didn't even know what I sounded like until I called my mom earlier and was like, "Oh my God, I can't even talk." So getting to Oklahoma State here, I'm not going to break every single team down, but obviously you guys know I know a lot about Oklahoma State. While they may scare you, I see somebody put that in, in the comments. They're an interesting case, right? I think, look at it this way though. They're going to be really good on offense, I would imagine. By the time we play them, they might be starting to figure some things out, but at least there'll be some data out on them too. It could be a bit of a shootout. I don't know what our defense is going to be, but I wouldn't, their defense is not going to be elite next year. They added 81 just like we did last year. And they might be up now. They're bringing a lot of continuity with them from North Texas and stuff. So they may be a level above where we were last year. Maybe they'll be 6-win team. But as far as scaring you, I don't know. I mean, Mestamaker's tough, but if you can light him up in the pocket, he does make mistakes. Hawkins, the running back, is a juggernaut. He's not fast, but man, does he break every tackle. So there's definitely some issues with them that you definitely see could give you problems. But, they obviously added Young at wideout. They added the kid from Davis from Wake Forest, who's just a really slippery player, wide receiver. They went out and got Chisholm at linebacker from UCLA. They went out and they did a lot. I mean, they spent a lot. They went all in on it. I imagine they'll probably be a player for the next few years in portal. Based on everything I've found out, I've met a lot of their heavy hitters in the program. It's like I get a lot of intel about Oklahoma State now too that I don't even need. I don't do that show anymore. But yeah, they're going to be a tough out. But I do think West Virginia, being at home, should win that game. And I really do feel like West Virginia will be 4-0 by this time. I'm not scared of Virginia. They won 8 games last year. I think it was 8 or 9. Maybe they won 9. And they had to go out and get 30 guys in the portal. I know they lost a bunch. I mean, I don't know. Then you get Iowa State, who is the most depleted program in Power 4. And then you get Arizona at home with back-to-back, Cincinnati at home. So you go home, neutral field, which is basically a home game or close to it. Then you go to home. Then you finally go away to a team that's the worst team in the Big 12. If by some miracle they're not, then it'd be a shocker. To Arizona, who could be a tough team, no doubt, at home, and Cincinnati at home. I could see us losing to Arizona. I could also see us losing to Cincinnati. But I don't think we will to Cincinnati. I think they'll regress majorly. Without their star quarterback. He was a big reason why they were as good as they were. As far as Arizona goes, I mean, I'm going to have to chalk that one up to a loss probably. I mean, We're going to lose one or two of these, I think. So what I have is, I think this first 8-game stretch is going to make or break how big of a season we're going to have, in my opinion. When you look at it, I think 5-2, 7-1, something like that, or 8-1 would be I'm sorry, it's 8 games, so 8-1 would be the ceiling for me. Obviously, I don't think you can go 9-0 or what is it? Maybe 8-0. Or it's like on the low side of that. Maybe 5-2. I don't feel like we're going to be much worse than that. But maybe I'm just way too optimistic. I could be. I've never claimed to be very good at this, actually. Picking the schedule, it's not easy to do preseason. Then you go trying to figure out when the bye is. It's before Texas Tech. So then you go to TCU away, and that's probably going to be a tough game. But it's not like all these games are very winnable, is my point. Like, there's not a BYU on this schedule, right? There's not an Arizona State from a couple years ago on this schedule. There's not an Oklahoma State or a Baylor from a couple years ago on this schedule. So it's pretty crazy. You kind of missed out on a lot of the tougher teams that could be in the league this year. But you did get Texas Tech. Yeah, absolutely you did. And that's a loss. Listen, I'm always going to hold out hope for an upset. I'm always going to hold out hope, but I just don't see how we pull that one off. Yeah, it can be done. Look what Arizona State did last year. But I don't know. Then here's the part that makes me laugh a little. You've got a Kansas team that has not been themselves in years, right? They've really fallen off. I don't expect that to get much better, although they're going to be a team that gives you their best shot, and you're going to know you were in one with Leopold, but his stock has dropped for me. Houston, give me a break. I don't care, like, this Willie Fritz aura, I don't get anymore, at least from West Virginia's perspective, because we had the worst team we've had in years and waxed them boys. We put up 250 yards on them in a game. So, and that was on the road in Houston. So, that was a 9-win Houston team last year. So, look, say what you want to say, but I'm not too scared of them next year. I'm not. So, and then you get to Utah. It's an away game. It's in Rice-Eccles for sure. That's definitely not easy, but how good is Utah going to be anyway? Really? You're replacing the greatest coach in school history. We know what that's like. And you're bringing a coach in waiting. Well, we know what that's like. And typically there's a drop. And typically it doesn't work out. They made it work out for themselves because they pushed Kyle out the door, and he went to Michigan and he took all their best players, or at least a few. So while I have no deal that Utah will still be a good team going forward with Scally, they obviously love him. I can't say that he won't be. Maybe they do take another step. Maybe he was the reason behind it. I have no idea. We'll find out. But I'm not as scared of them as I was a year ago today. They absolutely waxed us last year, and it wasn't close. They dominated us up front physically. Bad. But a lot of those guys are gone now. So that was the game where I looked at it and was like, oh my God, we can't stop them at all. That was bad. you hope you've addressed some of those issues. But, I do think that, yeah, I do think, somebody says in the comments that Houston should be on the upswing. They absolutely are. But in a year's time, you can't convince me that we've gone from punching them in the mouth for almost 300 yards on the ground with a very bad offensive line to upgrading at every spot on the O-line, returning 2 or 3 starters, getting a upgrade at every other position our offense is upgraded. Like Scotty Fox went from a training bike and duct tape to chrome and a motorcycle. Like, or if you want to throw in Michael Hawkins Jr., went from sitting the bench at Oklahoma to barely getting time to potentially coming in with a bit of a little bit of something to him here. And I've said multiple times, but West Virginia didn't go out and get Joseph. They could have. If they wanted to go get Joseph, he went to Wisconsin for $2.5 million or whatever it was, 2.7. West Virginia could have definitely done that. They chose to go the lesser, cheaper route on an unproven guy with a lot of talent. But to me, that says that Scotty Fox is still in the race, and we'll find out who wins. I like both guys. Like I'll say this the whole way. Whoever wins, I'm going to be all in for until they're not, right? It's just logically speaking to me, I feel like Scotty Fox has the better chance to succeed in this year. And I know a lot of people love Michael Hawkins and what he could bring, but year 1 to year 2 jumps are documented history. Year 1 to year 2 jumps, you just can't match them. Scotty Fox is going to be operating on a different level, which is why I think he'll probably win the job personally, because they're probably paying him about the same, right? I would imagine they're probably both getting $800K a millish, somewhere in there, which is, basically what you would have spent on a big time, or at least a pretty big time quarterback. One of the like if it's on 10-point scale, maybe one of the guys you could have got that was like a 7.5 or an 8. Like Sorsby's like a 10 or one of those guys, but you got somebody like a Joseph, which is like a 7.5. So I think Scotty Fox could absolutely turn into that, and I think so could Hawkins. It just really depends on how they look in practice, and I think Rich Rod will play the best guy. So we'll find out. Whoever starts is who the best guy is. I do believe that, but he's also been wrong before. We've seen that. But yeah, Brett Yormark, man, what a gift, right? I mean, this schedule is truly a big deal. I can't believe that we got it. Let's go to break one last time. It's just a 4-second break. We'll come back and finish thoughts. All right. So final thoughts on this are, I think that, a couple things. We got some pros and cons I wanted to get to. I don't know if I want to do a full prediction on what I think West Virginia is going to do yet, but maybe I should. So here are the pros of the schedule, okay? At least from what I can see. West Virginia, we don't ever get this kind of home leverage, right? 7 home games against Houston, Kansas, Cincy, Arizona, Oklahoma State, and others. That alone raises the floor by at least 1 win. The front-loaded momentum opportunities here. 3 of the first 4 are at home. You got a neutral site game in West Virginia South and Charlotte that plays like a West Virginia home game. Your first true road game is until a depleted Iowa State team that is rebuilding hard. And if West Virginia just handles this business early, the season can snowball. And all of a sudden, this team thinks they're really good. And maybe they will be. You're facing a lot of rebuilding or transitional opponents. Several really key opponents are in flux. Iowa State post Campbell, Oklahoma State roster turnover, Houston still hasn't quite found its identity. Utah, coaching transition. Kansas, trending sideways, not up. That matters in college football. And then the trench improvements match the schedule, right? In my opinion, this schedule rewards running the football, rotating defensive linemen in and out like we're going to have, and some physical depth. And I think West Virginia checks those boxes this year better than they could have last year. The cons are 8 straight games to open the season with no bye. That's a big one that you have to factor in, and it almost nullifies the home games that you're getting. But that's where depth is hopefully going to come into play. You get the late bye week before the toughest part of your schedule in week 8, right? Or 9. It's 8. Yeah. So if West Virginia is banged up, it's late relief, but, you're playing an easier schedule early, so you should be okay. We're hoping. But you're going to have little margin for error if the injuries stack up. Hopefully nothing like last year. But that said, if West Virginia is winning, this becomes a very manageable instead of disastrous kind of schedule. And then, obviously, Lubbock is brutal. Utah late in the year is a physical place to play in the altitude, but winnable in a year one. But it's certainly going to be difficult, probably the second or third toughest on the schedule. TCU is still a talent-rich road game. Yeah, absolutely, but I've never really believed in Sonny Dykes since year one of that. So they're not unwinnable, but they're not freebies. Then you got the month-long drought from October 17th to November 14th. West Virginia goes over a month without a home game, and that's because it's an issue. West Virginia starts losing so hopefully winning cures everything in that situation. I think, for me, I think the floor for this team is 7-5. That's what I have written down here. I think we can expect 8-4 with a potential of more, maybe 9-3, maybe 10-2. I think it's all possible. You've got 7 home games. You got early momentum. You got a manageable back half of the schedule. I don't consider it to be hype. I think it's more of alignment, so I think West Virginia's got pretty decent shot here. We'll see. The UVA game should be a great measuring stick. Yeah, perfect opportunity right there. And there's a little rivalry there that hasn't been really talked about in a while, huh? So thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen, guys. Before you go, I have to let you know about the Everydayers Club. If you never miss an episode, make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayers Club with me. It would make a lot of sense for you. And get ad-free audio, access to members-only Discord, and more, all built by our most loyal fans. Click here to learn more and join your team's opportunity, and I will put that link in the chat right now. All right, guys. Thank you, and make sure you check out Locked On Big 12 next, and I will see you then. I'm out.